Because a lot of what we're trying to get at is we're trying to feel heard and seen by the people that we're corresponding with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're not talking about evolutionary anymore. We're talking about emotional. A lot of these anger situations happen in response to somebody else, right? And we're trying to have somebody else validate how it is that we feel. And we feel angry when that other person doesn't validate those feelings. Me and you learned very, really early on the repercussions of losing your shit on somebody.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I also know what it's like to hurt another person at the same time. Like I know what it feels like. And we become, especially if you're a very empathetic person like me or you, it hurts me just as much as it hurts them when I get angry. Right.
It's like the guilt is immediate. The second it comes out of your mouth, you're like immediately guilty and sorry.
Yeah, you
like,
feel it
shit.
right away and it doesn't feel very good. And I think that is the responsibility that we have when we operate from awakening, is that awakening means being super conscious and super aware of your behavior. And so the second you mistreat somebody, your spirit is hurt by that because you realize that you're not operating from love. And so that is the perfect opportunity to check yourself and be like, hey, I'm not operating from the greatest place of authenticity. And in awakening, it's not like we don't get angry or we don't go through those uncomfortable things. It's just the period of time it takes us to get over it and learn from it is very, very small, right? It's immediate. I tend to not drag things out for like weeks or months at a time. I think when you're operating from awareness and you start treading into awakening, that window starts to become a lot smaller. You start noticing your behavior as it happens because you're being a lot more present. So for me, anger requires collaboration and not resistance. A lot of people, because there's this stigma behind anger, when you ask somebody about anger, the first thing that they'll think of are all the different personal experiences that they've had of being angry. They won't think of the biological reason. They're not going to tell you, well, it's because of these neurons and this and that. They're going to tell you some story about how somebody pissed them off or somebody cheated on them. And that's fine. But that points to a disconnect that we have with our anger. It's like, I'm here and that's anger over there and that's not me at all. But the truth is, your salvation is in acknowledging the fact that the anger is you and when you're experiencing it, because that is coming from within your body and it is a perfectly natural and normal thing to feel as long as you're perfectly aware of why it is that it's happening in the moment. So I think we have to practice integration when it comes to anger. So when it happens, you just accept it. You say, I'm feeling angry right now. And then you understand the circumstances in the moment that would make you feel that way. And you'd be surprised. If you even just spend a little bit of time trying to understand your anger, you'll notice how quickly it fades. Because I think the reason why anger sort of permeates is because your resistance to it. People don't like to feel angry. They don't like to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to lose a fight. They will just try everything that they can in order to prevent themselves from having to be that fucking person.
Yeah.
You know? So we have to practice response versus reactivity.
Response versus reactivity. I like that. That's so true though.
Yeah.
It really is.
Response is in the moment, there's a response. Somebody makes you upset, you practice effective communication. You say, hey, look, this is how I'm feeling. And this is something that applies to, I imagine, if you're in a relationship with somebody that isn't toxic, that's someone that's a pretty reasonable person. If you just say these things, this should lead to a cohesive conversation. I'm talking about in a reasonable situation, there's a right action and response in any given moment, right? And reactivity, what reactivity is reacting unconsciously through your projections and ideas of situations. You are believing the fiction and not the fact of whatever you're experiencing in the moment.